What's going on, guys? Stefan here, S&E's Garage. Today we're going to be putting this inside of our Grady White Seafarer 226. Alright guys, so behind us here is going to be basically the system that we are going to be installing in our boat. So what we have here is 50 foot of 16 gauge speaker wire. This is Amazon Basics. I'm going to link this down in the description below. It's just plain Jane speaker wire. You don't really need anything crazy. Here we have all of the butt connectors and wire connectors that I feel we're going to need to install this. We have some spade connectors, butt connectors, things like that. We have our 10 gauge power and ground wire that we are going to be using to send power here to the amplifier. In my boat, I have a 4 gauge power wire and ground wire coming from the batteries up the hull. And they go to a bus bar hidden in the cabin. So I already have my power and ground off of the battery. If you don't, I would definitely recommend going thicker than a 10 gauge, especially if you're going to be running it for quite a while. You're going to want to go with a thicker gauge wire to a bus bar and then branch off of that. That's the way my boat is set up and the way we are doing it. So that's everything we're going to need here. You are also going to need some remote wire here. This is just a blue, it's basically, they call it turn-on wire. What this does is you would basically put this to a ignition source. So a source of power that is only given power with the key on. So that's what we're going to use this for. This is just going to tell the amplifier here that it is okay to turn on. So now that I showed you everything you're going to need to do the install, let me show you the things that I selected to make my system. So what we went with here for the brains and the power of the operation is the Kenwood KAC M5024BT. That is a mouthful. I had to read it because I couldn't remember all of that. But anyhow, this is a Bluetooth receiver, basically amplifier, that puts up to 50 watts per channel into 4 ohms out to your speakers. So this is 50 watts RMS. This is 25 watts per channel more than any of the regular head units that I could find. And all we plan on using is Bluetooth. I don't really use AM or FM radio. So this will be perfect, and it is nice and small. Let's go ahead, unbox this, and then we'll move on to the speakers. Now I am going to, in the video description below, leave links to everything here that we are using, from the speaker wire to the hookup wires, to the remote turn-on wire and spade connectors. Everything that we use will be in the description below. Now Kenwood and JVC are now one company, so JVC also has a version of this. From what I can tell, other than the badge, it's the same unit. It's known as badge engineering, but anyhow, let's go ahead, open this bad boy up. Here you're going to have your owner's manual with your screws here to mount the unit to wherever you decide to put it in your boat. We have yet to decide where we're going to do that. We're going to figure that out when we get over to the boat. Here is the main unit here. It's packaged in 2 styrofoam end caps here, so we're just going to move the styrofoam out of the way. And this is the size of the unit. Here's my hand. It is nice and small, it is nice and compact, and then you have your wiring here. You'll see that it does have a 40 amp inline fuse here that is going to basically be there in case this thing shorts out for any reason. So you're not going to need an additional inline fuse or anything like that. It already comes with one. Let's go ahead and get it out of the plastic and check out some of these wires. Alright, so like I was saying, here's your power wire with your 40 amp inline fuse. The next big wire here is going to be your ground. This is going to be your remote wire. This, like I said, that's going to be your turn-on wire. And then here we have our speaker wires. It's pretty simple here. They're going to be in pairs, so you'll have white and white with black. One's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. Negative is going to be the with black. Once we go down to the boat, we'll go ahead and explain this a little bit more in depth, which is left, which is right, which is front, which is rear. And then you have a set of RCA outs for if you decide that you want to add a subwoofer to the application, whether it's a powered subwoofer or an additional amplifier. The outs are there. And then this here is going to be the connector for the controller of this unit. Let's go ahead and open the controller. So in this cardboard box here is going to be the controller for this unit. we'll go ahead, open it up like so, and you'll see here is the bezel for the controller. So when you're going to cut your hole in wherever this is going to be mounted, this is the shape that you're going to use. We'll outline this, the smaller side, go ahead and make our hole where we are going to mount it when we figure that out, and then this will slide in, and then again, here is the controller. Let's go ahead, open it up. You'll see we have a twist knob here for volume, which is super nice, and this is super simple. You have your play pause, that's also going to be to pair. You have your EQ buttons, your skip tracks, and then you can select your pre-outs, and then here is going to be your volume level 1 to 7. Alright guys, now another thing we decided to do here is with our boat, there are several inspection ports that are located throughout the hull of the boat. And I did not want to have to drill or cut any new holes into the fiberglass on my boat. I don't like to do unnecessary work. So we went ahead and we went on the boat and we measured a couple of different portholes of areas that I'd like to put speakers. And then we went on Crutchfield, which is a great website because they have all kinds of information. And we picked 4 speakers, so 2 sets of speakers, that basically they're the largest speakers that I could fit with the cutout holes that we had. I'll go ahead and drop some pictures in here. The larger speakers that we're going to be using as the rears, the hole was 6.5 inches, I think. And then the front ones, which are up under where the captain's and the passenger seat is, was 4.5 inches, if I remember correctly. So the first thing we went with here for the front speakers are these Powerbase XL52SS. These are rated for 100 watts of peak power, 50 watts RMS. So these are going to be just at the limit of what this amplifier can output. So we're going to have to fade the sound a little bit more to the back, I think, just to protect these speakers. But again, these are the largest speakers that I could fit in the holes that are already in the boat. So you'll see here, here's your magnet, here's your speaker. Let's go ahead and open this up. They come with white and black grills. Our boat is white, so we are going to be using the white grills in lieu of the black. But I have used this brand speaker on other boats before, my Robalo, and I was pleasantly surprised with them because they do sound quite good. You'll see here it's got a nice rubber surround. It's got the tweeter mounted in the center. And then we have a metal motor structure with a nice big magnet. Like I said, 50 watts RMS, 100 watts peak power. So like I said, if we have to fade the power a little bit to the rear to protect these speakers, we will. And not for nothing, I kind of think that other than when I'm driving the boat, I'll be spending more time in the back of the boat than in the front anyway, so that's why we went with the bigger speakers in the rear. One other thing I did want to show you is they do include a template here for if you do need to cut a hole, and then they give you some cool stickers. I like stickers. These will probably make it onto the windshield or something. And then you have the foam, basically insulators. You basically put this on the back of the motor structure in between the speaker and the fiberglass to prevent them from rattling or something when the bass hits, and protect them from moisture encroachment. Alright guys, now for the backbone of the sound of our system here, we went with these Pioneer TS-ME770FS. These are the version of the speakers with the sport grill. They have like a conventional grill and then the sport grill. I happen to think the sport grill looks nicer, and it comes in either black or white. There's going to be 2 sets of grills in there. So let's go ahead and open them up. They are 7 5/8 inches, so 7.7 inches I believe they are. And like I said, this was the largest speaker that I could fit with the opening that I had. These require a 6 1/4 inch opening to use. I have a 6.5 inch, so there's going to be basically 1/8 of an inch on all sides. So there'll be a little bit of room in there, but these should fit nicely. Now, I already off camera, I opened these up and I went ahead and I swapped the grills over because they were black. They came with the black grills on them, and I'm going to use the white. So we did just swap them off camera. I'll show you how easy that is to do. But I did package them back up the way they were in there originally, as you can see, because they are fighting me quite a bit coming out. But let's just go ahead and pull these out, and you'll just see just how nice and big the magnets and everything for these speakers are. So let's open these up, get this box out of the way. This little packet with some felt in it fell on the ground. This is, I guess, to prevent squeaks and rattles from the speakers. Under here, you're going to have your mounting hardware. It's going to come with washers and screws for each speaker. And then we're going to go ahead and lift this styrofoam off. And you'll see here's the black grill. Like I said, we swapped it out already for the white one. And these are the grills that we are using for this setup. So these are a very nice looking speaker, again made by Pioneer. The magnet is huge. It's got a very nice looking motor structure here with the spider. And in order to change your grills, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. They come right out. You just unplug your tweeters here, and then you have to swap your tweeter from the old grill over to the new one. So like I said, these are going to be in the rear of the boat, and like I said, I think these are really going to fill the boat with sound, and the front speakers are just going to help complement that. So with that being said, this is everything we are using in our setup. Whether it's later on today or tomorrow, whenever it is, let's get over to the boat, start mapping our system here, and come up with a plan with where we want to mount everything and just start doing it. Alright guys, so here we are inside the boat. Behind this handsome guy here in the mirror is where you'll see our bus bar. So we have our positive and negative, like I said, 4-gauge wire coming in from the battery, and then it gets branched off here. So I did that back when I installed my power inverter here. This is what allows me to plug in things like vacuum cleaners, cell phone chargers, anything that runs on 110 we can run on this boat because of this. So I'm thinking I want to put the amplifier somewhere in this area where it can immediately be accessed, and it's easy enough to get power to it from this bus bar. So I'm not thinking that I have any more room in this area, and I don't want it to be exposed, so we might be mounting it up in this area, up behind the dash. Right up here. That might be our next best option. So we're going to do some poking around here. I'm going to see what I can't come up with for the best mounting solution for this, and then I'll show it to you. Alright guys, so we decided to mount our unit right here underneath the dashboard basically. It's going to be nice and hidden from the elements. We have our nice easy access here into our power wire. So now we're going to go ahead, take our power and our ground wires here. We're going to flip them up, and then we're going to go ahead and run some of our wires from the bus bar up under here, connect these, and then I think we're going to call it a day here because it's pretty hot out. I'm sweating like crazy, and I just wanted to see if we can figure out where we're going to mount this, so I'm good stopping at this point. So let me go ahead, like I said, run that power and ground wire, see what we come up with. Alright guys, so any connections you make on a boat, especially on the exterior of the boat, and especially in salt water, need to be weather tight to prevent salt water, and other elements from getting in there and corroding them. So we went ahead and used heat shrinkable butt connectors here, and they are heat shrunken. So now we're going to run the wires. We already started with this red one inside the cabin here, make this nice and neat, and connect our power and ground. Alright guys, so we got our power and ground here going to the bus bar, and what you'll see here is we have those two wires going up out of the way and basically into the fuse panel area here. So we're good there. Our next step is going to be to start unscrewing these portholes here.
and figuring out the best way to get the speaker wire from basically where the amplifier is here. Basically we're gonna have to go down through this portal and start running wires. So for the time being, I'm just gonna leave my controller in here like this. This winter, when I have the boat at home and I have some more time to work on it, I am gonna cut a little square out here out of my gauge cluster. I'll probably mount it right there in the center in between the tachometer and the speedometer. But for right now, it's gonna stay in here. So what we're gonna have to do next is, because I put the amplifier here so close to my ignition switch, I actually don't need to use my blue hookup wire, because this remote wire is, like I said, it's right up here next to the ignition switch. So we're gonna have to take a test light or a voltmeter and start poking around back there and see which one of those wires is switched ignition, and that will allow this guy here to turn on and off with the ignition switch. So like I said, we're gonna call it a night for tonight, and we'll be back. Alright guys, so I just wanted to show you right here, we used our test light and we found our ignition power. So we tapped the ignition switch right here. Ordinarily I wouldn't do it like that, but I wanted to get it done in a pinch. So in the future, like I said, when I have the boat back at home, we are going to do that in a little bit of a different way to waterproof it a little bit better. But it is up under the helm here, under the dash, so I don't think it's going to cause me any issues. Alright guys, so we went ahead and made all of our wiring connections here, and we did also go ahead and run the wires to where they go on the boat with our 16 gauge speaker wire here. So I just want to show you, we are using this amplifier in the 4-channel mode. So channel 1 will be left. It's going to be the white and white with black chaser. Channel 2 will be right. It's going to be gray and the gray with black chaser. Channel 3 is going to be a left rear, which is going to be green with black. And then channel 4 is going to be a right rear, which is purple with purple and black. So they are all ran, and then we came back here like I was showing you, and we ran the wires behind our mirror, so I can go ahead and put this mirror back up, and then down through this porthole. Now I did want to show you, I went ahead and I got these speakers in. These are the ones on the front, so all we went ahead and did was take the ports out, the inspection ports, and screw these in, and they fit great. Now back here was where we ran into some issues. Behind these ports, there actually wasn't enough depth to run our Pioneer speakers. The magnets were just too big, and I didn't want to sacrifice sound quality and buy a cheaper speaker that would fit, especially for, you know, when you're parked and listening to music. You're not sitting up at the helm, you're back here, you know, sitting in one of these seats enjoying the music. So we went ahead and we mounted them back here on the transom. Here's our left. Well, actually, that would be your left, that would be your right. So what we did is we got a 6.5-inch hole saw, and we made our holes here. You'll see we still have some fiberglass dust left, but this is the way these speakers sit in here. And then we went ahead and ran our wires through this tube here, and this tube goes all the way up to the front of the boat, back behind the helm. Guys, so now that we have our speakers mounted and everything, like I said, we went ahead, cleaned up this wiring a little bit, but now we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull this cover off here. It's held in with 3 Phillips head screws, and that's going to allow us to set several things. You can set a high pass or low pass crossover, you can set your fader and things like that. So I'm going to play with this a little bit. I'm going to, you know, sit in a couple different locations on the boat. I want to make sure that the sound is balanced, and I don't have any clipping or anything like that with the smaller speakers up front. I'm probably going to have to fade the sound to the back a little bit. We're going to play with it a little bit, and then I'll show you what settings work best for me, and maybe I'll play a little bit of music. I just can't play anything that's copyrighted, so I'm going to be kind of limited. Alright guys, I got some non-copyrighted music playing here. You'll see these are the power base speakers, wired up and playing. Pioneers. The Pioneers are definitely the bassier speaker of the two. And these fishing rod holders here actually act like bass ports, which is kind of funny. When you crank it up, you can hear the bass coming out of there. Let's turn it up a little bit. I don't want to... So they actually sound really good. Now what you'll see here, like I said, this is our controller. Eventually we're going to go ahead and mount it in here, but for right now this is where it's going to stay. You'll see here, as we turn the volume up, these lights light up. You can change your EQ settings. Right now I think I have it on flat. Yes, flat is number 1. If you look at the owner's manual, there's, you know, a bunch of different, there's top 40, jazz, you know, all different ones. I just have it on flat for now. So to pair your phone or whatever you have, you press and hold the play button, it'll go into pairing mode. You'll see those 2 buttons, or those 2 lights flashing. Then you go ahead on your phone, connect to it, but we already, like I said, we went ahead and did that. So that's going to be it for right now. Eventually I'd like to add a subwoofer to the system. I'm just not sure where I would put it. But for right now, this is going to be how it is until I can get the boat home this winter, and like I said, we're going to change a couple things, but we're done here. So what I am going to do, I'm going to add a couple of different size hole saws for you. I'll do a 6, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 6 3/4 if I can find them, because that's going to be the best size speakers to, you know, to mount in your boat, because, you know, any bigger than that you're looking into subwoofers. So these are 7.7 inch speakers. I think they look pretty good. They don't really, they're not in the way, and they're high enough to where if I'm walking here, I'm not going to kick them, and they're not going to get splashed with water. So like I said, I think that's the best size for up here. And then you just have to measure your, you know, whatever hole you're trying to put it in. Make sure your cutout hole is going to be the right size. But I'll add the speaker wire, I'll add the hole saws, and the speakers and the amplifier we used in this video down in the description below. So like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.